find it in a minute. We left off at 1 Samuel. We'll be picking up at verse 12 of chapter 19 in our continued study in our Sunday school class of the life of King David. I did a little more in-depth review last week, so I won't do so much this week, but just know that King Saul has disobeyed God, and the Spirit of the Lord has left him and has went on to the person who would be his successor, the shepherd boy David, who was a man after God's own heart. And Saul has grown increasingly jealous and paranoid, and has tried to kill David numerous times, either by throwing a spear at him or sending him into battle, expecting him to die. But the Lord has been with David the entire time. The Spirit of God has washed over David and protected him and given him more boldness and more power in battle, and which led to the song that Saul kills his thousands and David his 10,000s, which again fuels Saul's jealousy and rage. And so Saul has again tried to throw a spear at David, and David gets away and runs home. And we've even as we reach certain spots, as we did last week, I like going into the Psalms if I can cross-reference what psalm was written when in David's life. It's very important, I think, to look at David's heart and see exactly what his thoughts were, what was going on in his mind when these things were going on. And so last week I read Psalm 59 as David was running away from Saul's messengers, again, I will call them what they were. They were hitmen. And so they had been sent to kill David. And you saw, and in Psalm 59 we read that David always depends on the Lord. He never forgot where his help came from, where his strength came from, and that he was not vindictive. He didn't want these people to die. He wanted them to live so that the word would spread. So, and so we start at 1 Samuel chapter 19, verse 12, as David went home, and his wife Michal is there. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took an image and laid it in the bed, and put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster, and covered it with a cloth. And when Saul sent his messengers to take David, she said, "He is sick." And Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, "Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may slay him." And when the messengers were come in, behold, there was an image in the bed, with a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster. And Saul said to Michal, "Why hast thou deceived me so, and sent away mine enemy, that he is escaped?" And Michal answered Saul, "He said unto me, Let me go. Why should I kill thee?" All right. Now we're going to look at the difference between Saul's children. Because you have Jonathan, who is David's best friend, looks at him like a brother. Jonathan, who loves the Lord and sees David for who he is. He knows David is going to be his father's successor, because he took his princely robe off and he gave it to David, signifying, "I know that you are going to be the next king." And he is obedient to God in protecting David, his brother. But then you have Saul's daughter, Michal, who protected her husband, protected David. But when confronted by her father, she said, "Well, David told me that, to let him go, or said, why should I have to kill you?" So, so in essence, she's kind of playing both sides, because she's saying, she said, David said, "He said to me, let me go. Why should I kill you?" So she's still kind of playing both sides. She's riding the fence. Well, what's that word that the Bible always uses? Lukewarm.
Yeah.
Because if it's so evident to Jonathan because Jonathan, as Brother Ray said last week, it was one of the, a profound statement that you said last week about how you could almost study the heart of Jonathan here just as much as you do David, because, I mean, Jonathan wrote no Psalms. There was nothing of his thoughts other than just reading through the life of David and seeing how Jonathan treated him. And you see, I mean, Jonathan was a good servant of the Lord. He loved the Lord with all his heart and wanted to see God's will done, even at the expense of his own throne. But Michal is still looking out for her best interest. As we go on, you're going to see Jonathan is willing to sacrifice even more. So it shows that Michal is still, being a little lukewarm there. I think there's a good little lesson there. Let's pick up at verse 18. So David fled and escaped and came to Samuel to Ramah and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in Naioth. And I'm going to stop just with that one verse, because there's a great lesson in that verse as well. David's in trouble. He runs away, but he knows where his hope comes from, because we read Psalm 59 last week to know David knows his hope and his strength is in the Lord. His salvation is in the Lord. So, but what does he do when he gets out and runs away? He goes and seeks godly counsel. He goes to the wisest person of God that he knew. He went to Samuel, God's prophet, to talk to him and tell him what was going on, which is the best advice that anybody can receive. If you've got something going on, you know what? There are men and women of God that have been put in your life. People who know the Scripture, who have good discernment most of the time. And I mean, and that's kind of a joke, but it's kind of serious too, because none of us are perfect. God's called me to stand up here behind this podium, and preach the word, but it doesn't mean I'm perfect. But if somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm gonna do my best to advise them with good godly advice as much as I can. And if I can't find the answer outright, just from what God's given me up here, I've got a great resource book to look into to look and figure out what they need to hear.
Yeah, first thing I say is, Lord help me.
Lord help me. It is. I mean, because I can't do anything by myself. But I mean, it's a great lesson that when times of trouble come, as we were saying, as we were taking the prayer request and the praises this morning, there's nothing too big for God. There's nothing too small for God. Whatever you've got going on, go to Him. If you want to go and get someone to agree with you in prayer, go to one of your brothers and sisters in Christ and get them to agree with you in prayer. I mean, it's all good advice, and David, shows some spiritual maturity here. However young he was, by knowing, hey, I'm in trouble. I need to go seek godly counsel.
Is there a lesson there, with the virus?
With the virus, yes.
David fled.
Mm-hmm.
The trouble and whatever was going on. So it's not bad for us,
No.
to stay away from.
No, I mean, and that, and even biblically, I mean, quarantine is actually, a very biblical concept.
Yeah.
For
Old
us
Testament.
to separate ourselves away.
It's there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I mean, because I've seen some things, where people are getting down on churches. You look at Facebook, and some people, you have it on both sides. The ones who say, yes, we need to try to stay away, and but then you've got the ones that are that that may, they're hyper religious. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
My one problem with what most of them say is that we need to let things that are essential go on, but they don't include church. And to me, church is essential.
Yeah, they want to go to Walmart or anywhere else and do whatever, but they don't want to go to church.
Right.
You go to Walmart for groceries to feed the body. You come to church To feed your
For
soul.
groceries to feed the spirit. I mean, and it is. It's the same. It is. It's the same thing. So I mean, it is. And I mean,
Well, you gotta look at who's in charge, you know.
And that's it.
To them, you know, most of them probably don't believe God no way. And it's essential, going to church, you know, that ain't essential to them, you know. So, you gotta look at, you know,
Our governor's,
where it's coming from.
our governor's a little different,
Yeah.
cause he left an exception in his.
he did. And in the
Yeah.
bill, there was an exception.
Anybody wants to read it, I've got it here. Some places, they close the door, or ask people to close the door, and if they meet anyway, then, they go through it and take their, if nothing else, they take their license number and send them a ticket. But in other places, they're telling them that they will shut the door physically if they keep
Yeah.
doing it. But our governor's not that way. And I sometimes wonder if a whole lot of this right now is God working through this to show people what's going on.
True.
I believe that.
This is the person you're voting for. I think people in a lot of places right now that are parading up and down the streets are finding out what kind of people they're voting for. Because a lot of times they will tell you a lot of things, but you ever notice that they'll tell you everything up until they get in office? And then it's a completely different story.
They don't need you again till 4 years later.
I believe they call that lying. I think that's what they call it. But we keep electing them. But God gave us common sense. And if you're saved, he give you discernment if you want it.
Yeah.
You have to ask for it. He give you discernment so you can say, this just don't feel right.
Right.
The morning, the day that I had a heart attack, I didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I had a little, like I had gas here, but other than that, and that was an overtime day. That's Martin Luther King's birthday, and I was fixing, where was I going? I was going Ray County, I believe. I was gonna make some money. That's time and a half for me. And so to get me not to go is strange. But I just didn't feel right, and I had a feeling there's something wrong. So about 4 hours later, I was laying in Cookville having a heart attack. God takes care of his kids, his children. I know people say, yeah, well, he could just took care of that right. Yeah, but he was trying to tell me something. He works that way.
Yeah.
God is like a very good father. Whenever he wants to heal us or do anything, he oftentimes will give us a chance to help ourselves, to teach us a valuable lesson.
Amen.
Well, it's just like she said with the father. You have to, just like whenever you're a parent, you want your kids. You're like, okay, we'll try that out, and let you, you know, when if you burn your hand or whatever, you know, hopefully, you know. But I mean, you've got to.
Well,
He lets us live.
he'll tell you not to touch the eye on that stove because it's hot. But if you do it anyway, he'll let you.
Yeah, he'll let you do it.
He'll let you heal, but you're going to burn for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus taught by parables.
That's it.
He took people's lives.
Do you like Good Father, the song?
Actually, I have it on my
That's
playlist
what I
at
thought
work.
of when you said that. Sorry.
Anyway, he taught by parables.
Amen.
And just like, we're living parables, what we are. Just like you
That
look
is-
at Ray, Ray had, you know, money on his mind, going down the
Yeah,
road.
yeah.
And I'll tell you the parable of Ray.
Okay.
And God caught his attention, you know, and it worked. You know, he learned something.
Oh, gosh.
So,
He said, you ain't
What?
gonna make no money.
yeah, we're living parables, you know.
That was one of the best things ever. That was crazy. That's
Yeah.
the best thing. One of the best things that ever happened to
That's
me.
what
is
it
having a
took to
heart
get your
attack.
attention.
It
though.
really was. Cause he can do things in your life that will change the course of the rest of your life
Right,
fast.
right.
And get this though, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Number one. But still, heart attack and all, I was laying there like there was nothing in the world wrong with me, and I was ready to go. I know everybody said, yeah, he wasn't. I was ready to go. Me and him had already talked about it. And I said, just take care of my kids, my family. I'm ready. I'd say there's another talk, had a talk or two.
I told him a few things.
Yeah.
If you do.
Well, when you go to Walmart, do you wear your mask? Or you expect God to take care of you?
I wear my mask.
I wear
think
sometimes I don't.
Do you tempt?
There we
that-
go,
No, but
tempted.
I would whoop you now if you go down there and get your mask on.
Well, some of them won't let you in if you don't have a mask on.
Oh, that's true, they don't let you.
But still, I mean, I was, several places yesterday and
I mean, it's,
hardly any had
I
masks
think
on.
if you go down there and don't wear your mask, you're tempting God. In my view. You're saying, I'll be all right, Lord's gonna take care of me.
let me ask you this. Why are you wearing a mask? Why? Because somebody told you to.
You're protecting another
No.
person.
No.
No, I'm keeping myself safe.
I understand, but who told you that it was safer to wear a mask? Did you make that up on your own?
It makes sense. I mean, it makes common sense to me, so.
Because really and truly, when this first come out, there was masks and something, they said, no, you don't need to wear a mask,
Right, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm,
And then all of a sudden, everybody needs to wear a mask.
yeah.
The governor of Ohio said, need to wear a mask. Everybody needs to wear a mask. If you catch you out, we're gonna fine you.
Mm-hmm.
They had kids go into stores harassing people with masks on. He came right back up the next day and said, take them off.
Mm-hmm.
It's still good?
Doesn't make sense, does it?
That ain't got nothing to do with
Oh,
what
I
I'm
understand.
saying.
I know where you're coming from. I know what you're saying. If you think you need to wear a mask, how about it? Wear one. Because it's a sin to not do something you think is right. I'm not arguing with you.
Well, they say
No.
the reason
Don't
they
make
said,
it political, that's
Right.
all I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I'm with you
That's the trouble,
100%.
that's what it is, it's political.
Yeah, it is.
That's
yeah.
it.
That's why you gotta look at it real
Yeah,
strong, yeah.
that's true, yeah. You gotta look at it real close,
Because they're again looking at the mass.
Mhm.
The people that says they know everything, they're again looking at the mass.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know that all the mask makers in China are going out of business? Because what they were putting up was not in camp. And the whole world's took it over. So is God working through this to punish somebody else? Because there are a lot of Christians in China. And you think that, we're here this morning and kind of afraid that maybe somebody's gonna come down the road and say we shouldn't be here. But over there, they come in and take you and put you in one of the holes like they're digging in New York.
Yeah, communist, yeah.
I believe it's already all a dry run on how much control the government can get over the people. You know, about the sheeple people,
Yeah.
you know, I tell you to do this, are you gonna do it?
Mhm.
And then you have a little incident where people protest, oh, that's wrong, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I
My
saw,
son, he works for Crossville Avenue Service. He said, I'm wearing my mask, I'm washing my hands, I'm pulling my clothes off when I get home. He said, you do what you want to.
Yeah.
And I'm taking care of myself.
But he's with sick people all day too, right?
that's
If I was
different.
in the hospital, I'd sure have maybe 2 or 3 masks on.
Yeah,
well, yeah, but when you go to Walmart, you don't know when you're passing somebody
No.
that's got it too.
And when we get back to the first of this, we didn't have church here. It wasn't, because I was with you. It would be tempting God. If I thought somebody was gonna come in here with a virus and somebody gets sick, that's tempting God. But I got to looking at the numbers. And where are the numbers at? New York, California,
28 more in Davidson County.
Illinois.
Here this morning. I think the
I'm
small
still
community,
trying to discern that.
Yeah.
we're kind of blessed.
Yeah.
Oh, we're very
You get
blessed.
that Nashville, you better have something on, you better not be out on the street. 'cause
Yeah.
You're gonna end up with my age,
A lot of people down there with that virus,
128 more than we're here,
down there.
and they're gonna still try to open up Nashville.
Yeah, and they're going to.
Yeah, I get
But I'm
to
always-
go to Nashville tomorrow.
I don't know if we're on the Bible now or
I
talking
think we
politics.
left the lesson.
I just
Yeah,
got.
we did, and we
We
really
took a
get
left turn
political.
at
This is a
Albuquerque.
political bunch.
I got a question.
By all means.
What,
I just wanna know what a word means.
Okay.
Bolster in number 13. It's
Bolster,
bolster.
that's to encourage or prop up.
they're talking about somebody's head, you know, about his head.
That's like a pillow.
Bolster. Pillow.
Well, it's a,
Put a
Yeah,
pillow of
what he
goat's
put,
hair
what she put there.
for his bolster.
what do you
Yeah,
mean?
they would be like for his bolster, you know, for bolster. I mean, it's the same thing. Bolster, you're lifting up, but,
Yeah, but
but
it
they're
pick-
saying they lift up his head to make it look like
Okay, so you can use it in two ways?
it's to put the image to make him look like he's laying there asleep.
I'm sorry.
Are you?
No, you're okay. You're okay.
No, you're not.
I'm
You
sorry.
don't want, you don't want to Debbie asked.
We don't know these
I
words
said,
unless
"You don't
somebody
know, you
asks.
asked."
Yeah.
But sometimes
I
I
didn't
need
know
to
it.
just shut up.
I thought it was Bolster.
I want you to
Somebody
listen.
Bolster on the set.
She's the hardest person on herself I ever seen.
I know it.
Bolster, toaster. Toaster, Bolster.
It's the only way you ever gonna know is to ask. I didn't know what it was either.
Huh?
We shall survive.
I know we get out of it every once in a while,
That's all right.
but I like to hear everybody talk. I really do. And really and truly, if we can't bring what you're teaching into today,
Oh, I agree.
we got problems.
I agree 100%. That's the difference between church and Sunday school.
Yeah.
So, there in Sunday school, it's a more of a spirit of learning and teaching, and it's not just. And I said that when I got up here for the first time. It's not just about me up here talking to you. It's I can learn just as much from any one of you that God is talking to and giving a point to and saying, "Oh, well, look at this! What I got out of that." I can learn just as much as you can from me standing up here telling you about King David. So I mean, it's.
Yeah, my point was, David fled, he was afraid, and, it's okay.
It's okay to be
It
afraid.
is,
There's nothing wrong with
but do
that.
you know
Stay
why?
away and-
Fight or flight. You know.
Do you know why
You
he
don't have
fled?
to always take,
For his life.
No,
be on the offensive and,
no.
What else you get out of it?
If you read on through there, you'll find out David is in a place a lot of times where he could have killed him, and he said, "I'll not take the Lord's servant."
Right.
Mhm,
He didn't.
No,
Flee, he
no,
didn't
he-
flee because he was afraid.
mhm.
He didn't want to be
He
put
didn't
in
know
the.
He wasn't gonna touch it.
He didn't want to put. Yeah, he didn't want to be put in a position to take the
Well,
anointing.
that's true too.
That's it. Because he wasn't afraid.
Both of it.
I do. I mean, because I do believe that there were some places where David had some fear.
It is.
Because
Oh, yeah.
later on, you get into a situation where he, and again, I don't mean to jump ahead, but he feigned madness
Love it.
because,
Oh, but that was with the heathen, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it was to get out of the situation, which
But he was keeping getting betwixt and between,
Mhm.
wasn't it?
It was.
He's afraid of both sides.
Right. So he was just kind of. So I mean, and I mean, many times in the Bible we read, about not fearing and all these things, but I believe God also knows that we are human beings,
Amen.
and
Most of us, anyway.
I don't think that
She's gonna hit me.
that,
If she's
that
close,
it's
she
too
will.
far to say,
She's gonna put a
that He
book at
knows
you.
that we're going to face
Little book of
situations
hope.
that are going to put a little fear in us.
Right.
But that's why, of course, we have this as our guide, and that's why we have words, godly men and women in our lives that we go to during these situations when we're fleeing from whatever that's going on, and we go and we talk to somebody. God knows we're going to be afraid. I mean,
Yeah, I was reading another place where it said, Jesus is talking about agreeing quickly with somebody else, lest it take you to the magistrate.
Yeah.
So that goes along with what David's saying it too. Yeah.
It's funny, Michelle lied, he is sick.
he's sick. Yeah, that's.
And they made an image in the bed.
We don't never do that.
Oh,
He's
goodness
not here.
gracious.
No, to protect
Somebody call on the
David.
phone. He's not here.
And but again, she was protecting David, but
Was protecting David, yeah.
I mean, should she have lied? No. I mean, that was definitely, that's something I didn't even touch on. I'm glad you actually brought that up. She did. I mean, she flat out lied. Said David's sick. And again, it shows the difference between David's children, between Saul's children, because you read here a little bit again, pull ahead, but you read here a little bit later. You know, Jonathan stands up for David to the point that his own father throws a spear at him.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, would it have been better for her to stand up and say he's not here and God's with him and you need to just take a hike, you know? Oh yeah, probably, to show some kind of boldness like that, but
I'd say she knowed her father.
I'd say so. And she was afraid for her life, I would say.
You know what, we talk about white lies?
Little bitty white lies.
That's just a little white lie. You know, I think what God looks at is your tent. If you tell a falsehood, to help somebody, maybe, but then if you tell a falsehood to help yourself, you know, make you come out good and hurt the other person, you know.
Yeah, definitely the one that,
I mean, I've told lies, well, you know,
We're-
is so-and-so here? No, I'm not here. I've even had the other day, guy, you know, a woman kept bothering me about Medicare or something wrong. Paul Walker there? I said, no, he ain't here. You know, so
I
you
thought
might
you
have
was-
told a little white lie,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't do it to hurt her or make myself better.
You just done it to keep from being pastured.
Mm-hmm.
it don't work.
No, they just call back.
And God says, bring the bed up to me so I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bring him on up here anyway. Bring him in his bed.
That's how desperate Saul was to get rid
Yeah,
of him.
bring him on up here.
Drag him up here in that bed.
Yep.
You know, but I mean, but again, I mean, after that, she lied again and said, you
Mhm.
know,
Yep.
well, he said to me, why should I, you know, so let me go. Why should I kill you? You know, it's like, so again, it's like you say, she knew her father.
Yeah, she
And
did.
I'd say that if in his state of mind right then, because he was so desperate to the point he was going to drag a sick man up there in his bed
Yep.
to have him killed, that she knew that if she stood there and said, oh no, well, I'll open the window and let him get out and run away and God's with him and you just need to go and take care of your business, you know, she might have been the one pinned against the wall with a spear. So
As long as we study this about David, as long as Saul is in, everybody's gonna learn about this man. He's all about himself.
yeah,
And he didn't care anything about his kids.
which is a shame because he didn't start that way.
Because I believe somewhere in there it's gonna make, I believe we'll get into it. He made a judgment one time that whoever done something, eat. I believe it was eat. Before they had their reward or whatever it was, their battle that they're supposed to win or something, was supposed to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan done that. And he said, yeah.
Mm.
But Jonathan had a heart like David. He really did.
No, he did. He did.
He
I
was.
mean, yeah. He is. I mean, you can see his godly heart. I mean, and when they go through and they make their bond and their their promises to each other. I mean, it was just good godly stuff. And I hate so much when I read studies that try to pervert that
Yeah.
into something that it was not.
Oh, yeah.
Because
It's
so many
okay.
people, they want to point at that and be like, oh, it's okay to do, this way because, and that's not what it was.
No,
It was
no.
a brotherly, I mean, and I want to say brotherly love, but it goes deeper than that. I mean, they were so brotherly. It was just in a place where, well, in the Greek, there's a word agape, which means unconditional love.
Right.
And that's what the two of them had for each other. There, because there was phileo, which is brotherly love, and the Greek agape, which is unconditional love, and their love was unconditional. There wasn't any,
Unconditional God's love.
yeah, there wasn't anything that was going to come between them, And so, I mean, it was good and godly. There was nothing bad or negative about it. And I'll get animated here in a minute because I've read so many studies like that, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
I was just curious about one thing with Saul.
Sure.
I mean, why send messengers to kill somebody who's sick, to go get somebody to bring them up to kill them if you're not... It's almost like he was kind of wanting to give himself time to think about it, almost. Like maybe he was trying to
I don't know that he was trying to give himself time to think. It was just, I mean, Saul's jealous rage, and you'll learn as you know get on through. You know, as you started, when Saul started out, he was a godly man. I mean, he was humble. He didn't first accept the fact that he was going to be king, but as when he became king, he became more and more about himself. His ego took over. And you see, I mean, as it was customary, back in the day when armies would go to war, the king would lead the charge. And it got, you notice that, as we get farther and farther along, that Saul's not wanting to get his hands dirty. And so oftentimes he's either sending messengers to do it, or he sends David into battle to do his battles for him, which was actually to his detriment because David was gaining popularity like crazy in Israel. And Saul was already so jealous of him, and so he would send David out to fight his battles for him, which would in turn increase David's popularity even more. So a lot of that, I think, was more he just didn't want to get his hands dirty.
Don't you think that's like politicians today?
Buddy, it is, ain't
I
it?
would have to agree.
It reminds you of the mafia.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, the way Saul handles it, absolutely.
But if you stop and think about it, the politicians
Yeah,
remind you
yeah.
of the mafia.
And I say this all the time. Every time if I teach a lesson about this or about wars or, how kings would always lead the charge, if wars were fought that way today, we'd see a lot less wars. If the presidents and the kings and,
Right. They had to
Yeah,
be right
the
there.
magistrates, whatever you want to call them, if they had to be on the front line of every battle, yeah, you'd see a lot less wars than we actually see. So
That would be the end of that mess.
no, it would.
Yeah.
So we will pick up next week. 1 Saul 19:19.
19, 19, that's a good year.